Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Geeking Out podcast. I am the Athletic Geek, joined by part of the Mark crew this week because, well, this topic is something that we're probably not going to get time for on our normal Thursday show. The biggest news in pro wrestling, and yes, this is the biggest news in pro wrestling. This is probably the biggest news of all time in pro wrestling, and even if you don't watch the product or don't care for the guy, this is the biggest news to have ever happened in pro wrestling in the last 35, 40 years. Vince McMahon has retired amid controversy. The Vince controversy has been the big talking points as of late for many reasons. And on I believe it was Friday. Yes,
Was.
Friday,
Right before SmackDown.
Friday, July 22nd, the birthday of the greatest wrestler of all time, Shawn Michaels. This news broke, and everybody was in a tailspin of what's going on. There was many different emotions of like confusion. There was much rejoicing from certain sections of the audience, just because they didn't like Vince. There was much rejoicing of potentially new opportunities and new directions for WWE. There was concern among wrestling fans. It ran the gamut of emotions. So rather than talking about this on our Thursday podcast, the Just Us Marks podcast, we're going to give the biggest news that we have ever seen in our lifetimes in pro wrestling its own forum, because there is just so much to talk about when it comes to this. This week, the marks that are joining me are CJ
Yep.
and EZ,
Hey, yo.
and well, we're just gonna start this off of what was everybody's initial reaction when they first heard this news. EZ, we'll start with you.
All right. So I was actually just like, it's a mixture of like, I was a tad bit shocked, but also not 100% shocked. Like, I knew like at some point this news would come, but at the height of all the controversy that's been going on, I'm like, whoa. So I kind of feel like, if this is way of, if this was Vince's way of, he wants to completely be distant of a company that not only he helped grow, but basically revolutionize. Like, look, I'm not going to say I'm the biggest Vince fan by a long shot, but he did. I will acknowledge, he has done a lot for both pro wrestling and sports entertainment. That I can't deny. So for me, it's like, I don't know, again, if this was just his way of just, wanting to be out of the public spotlight as, the story grows on. But you know what? If hopefully if this can be a great turning point for WWE, in a way of whoever else can take over and take charge, and hopefully not named Nick Khan, we will see what the future will hope or hold. Sorry.
All right, CJ, what about you?
Well, I mean, my first reaction to the whole thing was, well, holy shit. And my next step was like, okay, his statement said he is retiring from you know, the business roles of it, but as wrestling fans, we know he wears so many hats. So I thought that he was going to kind of work the business world, um, and say, I'm retiring, I'm stepping away, and still have some sort of creative control. Um, that was kind of always the thought that we'd have if he ever sold the business, is he would step away from the running of the company but still maintain a creative control, because that seems to be the thing that he had the iron grip on, the thing he would die in gorilla. That's what we all said. um, so it took a lot of research for me to feel comfortable in the fact that he was completely and totally gone. um, a lot of a lot of verifications and checking to make sure that the people that I found reputable in the media were confirming that he was really gone, and it is shocking. I'm still at a holy shit. We we will dive more into the ramifications of the holy shit.
Um, for me, like kind of across the board, it was shock. Um, Obviously, because yeah, Vince will die before he gives up control. There's like every other person on YouTube's had the there's so many people that have like fantasy thought like, well, what's going to happen when Vince retires, and all most of them that kind of kept their foot in reality, and even in the fantasy world said Vince isn't going to retire, he's going to die before he retires. And so when hearing that he actually did retire, my first thought is like, okay, whatever. I'm sure he's still going to be pulling strings somewhere from afar, and we'll get to that. But my other thought was, after kind of the shock wore off, my first thought was, holy shit, this must be bad, because Vince McMahon hasn't let a soul on this earth dictate what he does, or he's never bowed down before anybody. The federal government, the old guard of wrestling promoters that ruled with an iron fist, um, in the territory days, um, networks, anyone, not even like the president. He's never like cowered and shown weakness. He's never blinked in the face of adversity. Um, whether that's good or bad, that's just that's how Vince does things. He's going to fight you head on, and that's what he did. He the old guard of pro wrestling. Uh, in the old territory days, they ruled mafia like over the whole business, and because of the mafia like nature, no one went and infringed on anybody else's area. Uh, the promoter of wrestling at the Chase didn't try and make a play for Dallas, where the Von Erichs were, and the Jim Crockett didn't try and make a play for Minnesota, where Vern Gagne was, or anything of that nature. And Vince McMahon came in and just went, nope, I'm running shows wherever the fuck I want to, and I will pay money and bribe and do every underhanded thing that it takes to throw that territory off the air, whether it's raid their talent, offering them more money, whether it's offering more money to the networks to not show their show, whether it's paying them more money to no show like he did with Hulk Hogan in the AWA, or whether it's just outright buying the territory, buying the time slot that someone owed, like he did on Black Saturday with Georgia Championship Wrestling, and saying, "Oh, you're not seeing the NWA anymore. You're gonna see clips of my show." Vince didn't care, and Vince did it, ruled with an iron fist. You can say it ruined wrestling. You can say it helped wrestling. That's not what we're discussing today, but he did it. Ted Turner, one of the most powerful men in entertainment, um, had Vince on the ropes, and he still found a way to win. The federal government indicted him on charges, and again, we're not going to talk about ethics now with that, but he got it. He won. Um, Networks have said you're not going to be able to do that, and he's like, just watch me. You want to lose your show? I'm making better ratings for you. So to me, to see that he's finally like, something is so big, Vince is backing away. That was when I really it really made the whole scope of this controversy and everything he's done. It, like, to me, showed the scope of that and how bad and how serious this must be, that Vince is going, I'm done. I'm retired. Like, if the federal government can't make Vince blink, and this can, oh shit, oh shit. So that was my first, like, those were kind of my two initial reactions in the shock. Is like, this must be bad. This must be really bad for Vince if he's doing this. Um,
Apparently, all it took was the Wall Street Journal.
Well, and
In
kind
a
of
way.
to piggyback off of that I saw this brought up on, I can't remember who did it. So if the person that put this point out, this, here's me, here's this. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but I give you the credit. Um, that just proves how, like, Vince's number one priority has always been mainstream and always been the big world the world at large, and not just wrestling, because we've heard for years all the controversies of what a bad, quote unquote, what a bad company WWE is, and here's all the horrible things they've done, and they don't do this and they don't do that, and they stopped a union, and they made people wrestle. Didn't in the '80s they didn't have guaranteed contracts, and people wrestled with concussions and torn muscles and broken bones, and you know they didn't have a lot. They're all these different things are like, and it made us that read those reports from things like Dave Meltzer, and listen to all these podcasts and these shoot interviews with Moxley and CM Punk and all this, where we're like, oh my god, like, that's and we're all shocked. We're like, my god, why would you know someone's got to stop him, but, like, it's just this wrestling bubble. It's just the wrestling bubble that thinks that way. The world at large don't care. Other than the Benoit tragedy, the world at large isn't getting wind of this, and they don't want to hear it. So Vince isn't going to change. So when a publication in the business world brought all this up, then Vince took notice, and then people took notice, and then, like, oh god, this is bad. It's not just a bunch of wrestlers and wrestling fans hearing about this. Like, now the world is hearing about all this, and oh my god. So it's where it's like Vince finally looks human. He doesn't look bigger than life. He looks human now. And I'm not saying this to be like, oh yeah, that's what you deserve, even though we might be thinking that all pretty loudly with some of the shit he's done. But, like, this is
To be
finally,
quiet.
this is finally, somebody who could get away with, pretty well, literally get away with murder his entire life, is now. I mean, Grant, he still has more money and more power and more influence than any three of us on this podcast will ever have. But it's finally like, okay, he this man isn't a god among men. He's a man, and he's right on the level of anybody else. Where, hey, when you do something shitty, you're gonna get caught, and you're gonna be, at least in some way, maybe not to the level that we all think he should be, but you're gonna be in some way held accountable and brought down. Even just a little bit, which doesn't happen to Vince. Um, so piggybacking off all of that, um, my next thought is, what did you think? What were your initial thoughts of what would happen within Vince's company, the WWE? Like, were you immediately optimistic? Were you, cautious? What did you think, and where do you think the WWE, especially now that we've had, the news about Triple H becoming head of creative, Stephanie uh, taking over as head of the company? Um, where do you what are you thinking about, the future of WWE, um, from both a business and creative perspective? What are your thoughts right now? And we'll start again with EZ.
So at first it was cautious, then a tad optimistic, but also still a little cautious because, well, for one, I heard, well, Stephanie McMahon is going to take over the company. Great. She's actually probably the only McMahon that I really don't have any, negative feelings towards. Like Stephanie McMahon she's awesome. Like I'm going to openly say that. I think, yeah, she can have her flaws, but she's still, honestly, she's a well-respected businesswoman. I can go with that. Hearing that she's going to share the CEO reigns with Nick Khan, and then, my optimism level drops quicker than the old NXT. So that part I just don't understand. It's like, look, WWE has always been just a family-owned company, similar to NASCAR being owned by the France family, which that's another controversial take for another day. But anyways, I just don't understand, like, why do we still need Nick Khan? Like, okay, look, if he wants to do, the business side of things, to make record profits and all that, fine, good for you. But in terms of what exactly should be, and I'm not saying this as a pun intended, but, well, no pun intended, what's best for business, Stephanie, and especially I'll get to Triple H later, they know what they've been doing for God knows how long now, for like over 30 years at this point. Nick Khan's been with the company for like, what, 2 years now? He came in during the pandemic and then says, hey, we make all these record profits. Oh, yeah, and we're going to lay off these people here. Like, buddy, like, look, I get it. The business side it's not always going to be, sunshine and rainbows with all that, but there also comes a moral aspect. And I think that's what I like more with Stephanie and Hunter is they have a moral aspect on what they know can work, because we have one person who, who's been literally grown up with this company, sees, the business side of things, whereas Hunter, he has seen, the talent side of things. He has been on those grueling work schedules, week in, week out, like locker rooms, and I don't know where I was going with that. But anyways, like he knows, exactly what the talent wants. And that's exactly why many people were in love with NXT, because this was a great alternative in a way with WWE, apart from, for those who didn't want to watch Raw or SmackDown. NXT was also like, they had their own loyal following, I guess similar to, the ECW days. And the fact that, they get rebranded to this crapshoot that I don't even know what to even look at, as a quote unquote punishment for losing to AEW, it's like, you guys really didn't know what to do in the first place, didn't you? Like, I don't know, but for not WWE, for Triple H to be head of creative, that gives me some optimism. And believe it or not, I was watching some Raw highlights that happened, as of this recording, and they were actually, I can't believe I'm saying this, they were actually pretty enjoyable. And I knew that, many of this was the work behind Triple H. So again, I'm optimistic for what he's going to do creative wise, and hopefully he is the only one to have the final say in what goes on behind the camera, rather than, the people in the higher ups thinking, you know what, we should tweak this, tweak that. As a matter of fact, cut all these guys. It's like, no, you are not in the business here. This is why, at least with Tony Khan with AEW, he's the financial backer for this. And yeah, he plays some roles behind the camera, but he's not going on week in and week out, putting himself in storylines, to create, an alternative figure. It's like, or authority figure. It's like, no, we don't want that. Just say what's going on behind the cameras and let the talent do the great job here. And I'm hoping that's what Triple H is going to do. So again, as of right now, I am feeling slightly optimistic, and honestly, we'll see what happens. You know, when the rest of the shows and the pay-per-views come on, and especially the fact that WWE is switching back to TV 14.
That's been
That
confirmed
also
not
gave
true.
me.
It's not.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
No, that memo was sent out prematurely,
For
and it,
fuck's
it
sake.
sounds like that's off for now. We'll
Well,
see what
anyways,
happens.
so okay, then my optimism level is just back where it started. It's just like cruising altitude. Of I'm not sure where to go with this, but great. Okay.
Okay.
Just make it enjoyable and watchable again. Like, I'm sorry, it's just I don't know. I like the entertainment aspect, but you have to they have to remember themselves. You're a wrestling company. If you don't want to say you're wrestling, then what's with the squared circle? It kind of looks like wrestling to me. It's like if I'm watching NASCAR, I'm like, no, I'm not. No, we're not watching stock car racing. We're just watching testing sessions for Chevrolet, Ford, and Toyota. And they're like, but why are they all racing each other? It's like, well, they're just testing the engines. Like, no, I'm clearly watching an auto racing event here. That's what WWE. I just can't understand. It's like you call yourself a wrestling company, yet you're not. That I just can't understand. But, anyways, as I said, I'm optimistic with whatever hopeful changes that Stephanie and Triple H can do. Please and thank you. As for Nick Khan and Kevin Dunn, get the fuck out, please.
Okay, CJ, I know you got a lot to say right now about this whole situation.
So and we kind of joked privately that like this is why he keeps me around, is because I have the wrestling um opinions, but I also have my business background to kind of shed some light on some things. So I can probably actually answer the Nick Khan question that you had as to why we were doing co-CEOs. Um, we just had the only CEO basically in the history of this company step down amongst some sexual allegations, some impropriety in the chain of command. It's in this year of our Lord 2022, we all can kind of agree that it's a little inappropriate to have sexual relations with your direct supervisor. If and they've come out and kind of said like, this plan to have Vince step down was known for at least a week in advance, and they're kind of keeping that hush hush. They had announced Hunter Paul Levesque as the head of talent relations reinstated that Friday morning, and held the announcement of Vince's retirement. I know for us it seemed like just right before the show on Friday night. It was actually timed for the close of the stock market on Friday, so there weren't a lot of knee jerk reactions to the stock price. It could kind of chill out because there's no buying on Saturdays or Sundays. So it had the evening of Friday and Saturday and Sunday to kind of like breathe. Everything's fine. More information will come out. Everything's cool, and the stock price didn't take a massive hit one way or another. Um, and that's, I mean, as wrestling fans, we always just equip, like, oh well, it's because the show's on and it's gonna boost ratings, and yeah, maybe that did have a slight factor, but it was really 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 about the stock price. That was a business move. As far as Nick Khan being a co-CEO, it's very inappropriate. The head of talent relations would report directly to a CEO. It's very inappropriate for Triple H and Stephanie to report to one another directly with no other supervisors, especially because Triple H will be compensated based on the reviews of his supervisor, which is pretty standard business practice. It's the board of directors will decide Stephanie's and now Nick Khan's direct compensations, not only by their salaries but as their bonuses, and we'll kind of discuss that a little bit later. Um, but Stephanie really shouldn't be saying like, I'm giving Paul Levesque $1 million bonus this year because he's just doing a bang up job, because that's inappropriate. So
Doesn't that
that's
sound like conflict of interest?
It's a very big conflict of interest.
That's what I
And in the
thought.
past 2 years, the WWE HR policies and procedures have kind of lined out that you really can't be having a personal relationships with the people underneath you or your direct supervisors. So that would conflict with their HR policies and just general business practices. So I think that that's probably 90% of why Nick Khan is a co-CEO with Stephanie. The other piece, he has a 5-year contract, and unless he decides to break it, there's really no reason other than like this kind of shit that Vince has pulled to release him from that. His job formally as the COO was to make the company profitable, and he's done that. We put a lot of heat on him about the releases because the releases came as he came, but I don't know how much of that was really him. I do think that the Fox deal was a lot of him. Um, the Saudi deal might have been a little bit of him. A lot of the revenue streams, the increase in revenue and profits directly correlating to that is him, and in the things that he has we can definitely trace back to him. He's done a fantastic job, so there's really no reason not to promote him. There's some other people involved in this company at a very high up level that we as wrestling fans just kind of overlook. There was Christina Salen, who came in at the same time as Nick Khan as the company's CFO, who quit right about the time the
Excuse
year-end
me.
financials were coming out, and she left very, very quietly, and gave up a pretty hearty pay increase to just go somewhere else. And some of us were scratching our heads about that, and I think that now we have our answer as to why that happened. And they installed a CFO who had formerly been working in that role when the two people who had been with WWE for 1.5 years were unceremoniously kicked to the curb. Um, so they've got their Hulu rights are up at the end of this year, I believe. So they've got some big money deals coming through. The Fox, the Fox, the USA deals will be coming due soon. I think that the Fox deal was only 2 or 3 years. So they're going to be negotiating for some big money contracts. It's a really good idea to have Nick Khan stay and perform that role, whether you call him a COO or a CEO. It's a really, really good idea. Stephanie's a good businesswoman, but she's a marketing major. And the really flat joke, I'm sorry for anyone who studied any kind of business, but we always joke that there was a hierarchy in business. Is, if you really wanted to shoot for the stars, you got your accounting degree, and when you hit the brick wall and you couldn't get that, you got a finance degree, and if you hit the brick wall and you couldn't get that, then you got a business administration or a marketing degree. And it's kind of like one of those who can't do teach kind of jokes. um it's just a joke. Nobody come after me just for that, of all the things. But um everybody has their niche. I can't create compelling marketing campaigns. And Stephanie probably can't balance the financial statements. Clearly, a lot of people couldn't balance financial statements based on the information that we've received in the past couple of days of what the big deal really was with the Wall Street Journal, and what they found out and why Vince is really leaving. But it's a it's an interesting shakeup to how they've laid things out. I think Stephanie was probably the most obvious if you were going to want a McMahon in the seat, and I think that you do, to make sure your stock price doesn't just plummet. Um, I was very surprised by the announcement that um, Triple H would be taking over as head of creative. When Vince left, and they leaked that letter to the staff and to the talent, saying that he would be watching. I think that a lot of people would read that and think like, "I'll be watching you, super proud of you," and I don't think I took it that way from Vince. It kind of sounded more like, "I will be watching. Don't fuck this up." Um, so I think for a really long time we're going to see a lot of Vince isms, and I honestly thought that Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn and all the old guard would stay in creative roles for at least a good long while, and that Stephanie wouldn't really, really, really rock the boat right off the bat with those decisions. And it's not just her. That's a two-person decision because, as I said, I don't think that Triple H would report directly to her. So that would have been a Nick Khan decision as well, to install him as head of creative. that's a pretty good vote of confidence for him to put him there. I think that that's a good fit for him to be in. He did a lot of signings with NXT, a lot of things that we as fans really appreciated and loved. And a lot of people will say, "Well, NXT was in a slump." I'm like, I'll give him credit until he takes it away and proves me wrong. That Paul Levesque is pretty good at identifying what his shortcomings are and knowing when it's best for him to step away and see a new vision to live another day, to fight harder and still be better and not just be stubborn and say, well, this is mine and I'm going to do it my way, whether those fucking marks like it or not. um, he's got a lot of really good friends that are very creative, that have proven themselves with writing wrestling shows and promoting wrestling shows. So I don't think that we will see a really big change immediately. Although I was pretty stoked because we actually did watch most of Raw last night, and there was a cake involved. And I said this Thursday on the podcast, is I just want a fucking wrestling segment to with a cake to not end with cake in somebody's face. That's all I wanted out of my life. And Triple H has already delivered for me because there was a cake and technically went over 2 segments and nobody got caked. Nobody got caked. So we gotta look for the little positives in here. And
They
that
can
was a
finally die happy because no one.
I am a happy girl. I was you can ask. Uh there was there were witnesses. I danced.
There was there was a happy dance. There was a happy dance to
I did a
that.
happy dance. I squealed.
Oh my god.
I clapped. There was jumping and clapping, and I'm old and I don't jump and clap often, so it was a big deal for me. I was holding my breath. Watch, I didn't even really pay attention to who else was in the room, what Rey Mysterio was saying. I kept my eye on the damn cake. The cake is over with me, brother.
Cake, but whatever.
um, okay, so for me, um, when it came, when it comes to like the business and how this company will be marketed, I really, and I implore the rest of this section of the wrestling fandom, don't get your hopes too high for too much change in the general presentation of WWE, because it is still a publicly traded company. It is something that is supposed to appeal to more than just the wrestling fans. That is something that the networks and the corporate people in WWE are still going to go after. That's never going to change. It's not going to. It's going to continue to be sports entertainment. It'll be sports entertainment. If this company is around when we're gone, it's going to be a sports entertainment company. And the non wrestling people that work in that company, and I'm gonna break a lot of hearts here. There's more non wrestling people in that company than wrestling people. They don't get there's They didn't give 2 shits before Vince retired. They're not going to give 2 shits after Vince retires. Now that he has retired, I should say. They're not. They're going to still try and market it with the way that they used to, because that's the proven way of going, hey, we're not white trash, internet loser, fake fighting. We are, the mantra of Vince McMahon on Beyond the Mat, where he goes, we make movies, they're going to keep that up. That sort of mentality. Because that's what made wrestling into a worldwide phenomenon. Made that brand into a worldwide brand. So that's going to stay. So everyone, please don't get your hopes too high for this being, like AEW or New Japan, in the sense of how they present their wrestling. It's not. It's going to be sports entertainment. The quote of "I'll be watching." Vince Vince is still going to have, maybe not corporately, but Vince is still going to be pulling a lot of strings. And if you don't think that he's going to be maybe unofficially advising Stephanie McMahon, you're. I love you and I love your optimism, but you're being naive. You're still going to see Vince's fingerprints, even if like these allegations with, not just the sexual stuff, but the business practices come to light and he does go to prison, he's still going to be pulling the strings somehow. Like, if he goes to prison, he's not going to be going to like fucking Guantanamo Bay or, anything like that. He's going to go to a place where, for white collar crime like Martha Stewart, and he's going to have plenty of contact with business partners and his family that are in the business. So even the ultimate scenario, Vince is still going to have some sort of reach to this. So keep that in mind. And also, as far as just like the business is concerned, Nick Khan shares Vince's vision. And Nick Khan has brought in profits, so like, I know we as fans go like, oh, he's brought a shitty product. Why does WWE keep him around? Because he's proven it. He's proven as to why he's there to networks and stockholders and all of that stuff. So, I mean, Nick Khan isn't going anywhere. And, we watch Summer Raw, and we joke about the cake segment and like all these different things. The show didn't feel too terribly different than the way the shows felt for a while, and that creative change isn't going to happen overnight. So to everybody who's like, I'm going to watch Raw now, oh my god, nothing's changed, Triple H sucks, like, that's not going to happen overnight. And it's not going to happen probably to the level that we'd all like to see it that way. But, as far as some other sorts of changes, I do think we will see, kind of like what CJ said, Triple H leading this company from talent relations and booking. We will see, maybe, unless there's forces greater than Triple H in that company that really want to come down on it, we probably will see, maybe a better product for people like us in comparison to what we have seen in time. Again, not right away. But I definitely think that you're gonna maybe see a few changes. You're gonna see a few things go back to the way they were when, like, with NXT. Like, I think we are going to be seeing, I'm not saying they're gonna stop their NIL kind of deal with, college athletes and models again, but I don't think they're not going to slam the door like we talked about, a few months ago with signing independent talent. I think we're going to see indie wrestlers get signed again. I think we're going to see Vince McMahon, or not Vince McMahon, Triple H do some of the things that he did in NXT again with talent and how his approach to developing talent again. Again, not overnight, but I definitely think we will see that. We're going to see creative people that were let go be brought back in. We're still going to have Hollywood writers because that's just what networks want. Like Al Gore says, here's an inconvenient truth: networks would rather have TV writers writing wrestling shows than other wrestlers. Period. That's never going to change. So, but I feel like we will see people with more of a mind for the wrestling aspect of it have their voice heard. People like Road Dogg, Shawn Michaels, um, people like that who Triple H trusts and who helped Triple H in NXT. I feel like that will happen again. Um, I feel like we're going to see. It's not going to be creative freedom, so don't. It's never going to be complete creative freedom for the talent. So any delusions of grandeur that anyone has about that, I feel like you need to leave them at the door right now. But do I think that Triple H will probably have his ears open a little bit more? Or maybe understand, like, okay, well, I'm bringing in so and so who was big on the independents. Maybe I'll let him do what brought him to the dance, and then if it flops, then I'll tweak it, and then if it flops again, then we'll overhaul it. I feel like we'll see something like that. Like, I know he's in AEW right now, but like Keith Lee, for instance, Vince just didn't get it, didn't like it, so he became the Bearcat, or he was going to become the Bearcat, or whatever. Triple H won't like kind of hit that button to completely overhaul a character like that so soon, like Vince did. He'll be like, all right, Keith Lee, do your Keith Lee thing. And then if that doesn't get over, he'll be like, okay, you're doing your Keith Lee thing, but we're going to tweak, D, E, and F of your character. And then if that don't still get over, like, okay, hey, here's something completely different because it's not working. And that's not a knock on Keith Lee or saying he wouldn't get over. That's just an example. But I think that's how Triple H would go about doing something like that. But Vince is still going to have influence over Stephanie. If you don't think he's not talking to Stephanie, you're wrong. If you think that this is going to oust Nick Khan, who we see from, again, I mentioned the wrestling bubble. None of all these things that we knew forever mattered until it got outside the wrestling bubble. If people we hate in the wrestling bubble, but in the business office bubble says great job, he's not going anywhere. That goes for him, Kevin Dunn, Bruce Pritchard. If people still like the people that are really controlling the company, still like that, they're gonna be around. Sorry.
To kind of put it in a wrestling perspective, Khan is kind of to the business aspect of this as Roman is to our wrestling side. So like when Roman Reigns went away, it was very noticeable and everyone was going, where the fuck is Roman? Where's the champion? Where's the top guy? He's not on TV. Nick Khan runs every quarterly meeting, every shareholders call. His name is on filings. Like, he is the star in the business. He is a star in the business world, like, period. Not just for this company. He has really made a name for himself. And I hate to kind of out my home business here, but the business world does have superstars kind of like the wrestling business does, where everybody, if you're a wrestling fan, you know who Roman Reigns is, even if you don't watch WWE. If you're in the business world, you know the movers and shakers, and he has proven himself more than over in the business world. So to just pull him out or pull back the reins on him, people would be asking questions. They would be questioning it, just like we did when Roman went away.
Right.
Kevin Dunn, maybe not so much, but maybe.
But if Nick Khan were to go, I want to keep Kevin Dunn, they're gonna keep Kevin Dunn.
He's probably not going anywhere for a while until he proves himself incompetent.
Yeah,
which I
if
don't know that he can.
if
I don't say that because like I think that Kevin Dunn is incompetent. I think he would have to actually like Stephanie and Triple H can't just fire him because they don't like him. Like there's still a modicum of common sense control in the company with Nick Khan.
right. And kind of same thing with Bruce Pritchard. Just because Bruce Pritchard and Stephanie McMahon don't get along, don't mean Bruce is going anywhere. Because if Nick Khan thinks what Bruce is doing is good, and Nick Khan is the superstar businessman that the non-wrestling corporate brass and network brass see, they're gonna want Bruce Pritchard around. Now, again, these aren't things that people in this bubble want to hear, but it's the truth. Um, but kind of moving on to things that people within our bubble do want to talk about, and that is what this might mean for the wrestling business as a whole. Not just even within WWE, but AEW, New Japan, Impact, the whole wrestling world. The biggest name in pro wrestling, and yes, he is. Don't. I know there's going to be people going, well, actually, so and so from Japan is also big. Well, actually, so and so from Mexico is huge. Well, actually, there is no well, actually. Vince McMahon was the biggest person in the wrestling business ever. Ever. So when the biggest person in this business retires, ramifications, big or small, are going to be felt everywhere within that business. So I'm going to send this around the horn to see what we think may happen to the business at large. And we're going to start with Easy.
Personally, I might sound, a little bit strange saying this, but nothing. I actually don't think there will be a major impact to what WWE is going to do because honestly, it's like, for me, I would personally take advantage on the fact that, well, the company, they're not really looking for pro wrestlers. They're looking for, entertainers that can act like wrestlers. Case in point, in my personal opinion, the biggest douchebag in the world, Logan Paul, he's on WWE. And boy, how I would love for Sean Spears, just throw a chair shot on his tiny little stupid head. But that's just me. Anyways. But personally, on the business side, I don't think really anything will change.
I'm talking
Many
about like the
people will
business as a
think,
whole, though. Like how is this going to affect other companies?
I don't think it will. I think everyone will just
Mm.
keep doing, what they want to do. And again, I don't really think WWE will try to knock in some more pro wrestlers just to give them a fat ass contract. I mean, we saw with Cody Rhodes going back to WWE. It's like, okay, cool. AEW is still, you know, you know, the mill is still running on the water. It's still circling. They're still going to keep their business running. And I honestly rarely noticed that. Oh yeah, Cody was on AEW before. But for me, again, it's like they will do what they want in the pro wrestling business. I think they're still just going to keep going. I don't really think it is, nor should it be, a total threat to companies like AEW, Impact, New Japan, AAA, the European circuits. They're just going to keep doing what they're doing because I think, honestly, with the help of AEW, that more people are focusing in on the pro wrestling product and not just off the entertainment aspect. They actually want to see muscular men and women, just beat the living crap out of each other rather than, you know, cut a 20-minute promo people are going to skip over, then have a few matches, then one more promo, backstage promo, and then we get to main event. Kids have gone to bed. Okay, now it's time to get gritty and then have a main event that ends in disqualification. But anyway, that's just me. But yeah, as I said, just reverting back, I really don't think much is going to change. I mean, is WWE probably going to still make crapload of profits? Yeah, sure. They always have, with and without Vince. They're just gonna keep going. For me, I really don't think They should make major talent changes. Whatever they want to do with the NILs and whatever. Cool. That's all you. Again, I don't really understand that as much as I understand Bitcoin, which I think that's a total scam on its own. But man, pro wrestling is just going to keep moving forward, just as the world keeps on turning. That's just me.
Okay. CJ, what are your thoughts on the ramifications in the wrestling business as a whole?
So I think this is not going to be immediate. Not an immediate change at all. In the here and now, I think that immediately we kind of see a more wrestling focus, especially in Raw. I've seen a lot of people quote Triple H as saying, like, well, if you had control, what's the first thing you do? And he says, take Raw back to 2 hours, which is ideal in a wrestling business. That's not
Now, I will
what
do a happy dance on that.
it'll never happen. Not in a million and a bajillion years.
Because NBC likes the 3-hour Raw.
NBC loves the 3 hours. They love the extra hour. They wanted the extra hour. It was their decision, not even Vince's decision. He didn't even like the third hour. But to make it a little bit more appealing, I think that Triple H uses the extra time he has to put on longer matches, more competitive matches, a lot more. I think it'll start to look a lot more like an AEW product where, we get a lot of matches that we're like, oh, I didn't know I needed to see that until I needed to see that. And it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of the storytelling or the rankings or anything like that. It's just a really good match that took some time from your TV show, and he in WWE will have the time to do that more so than how we critique AEW for not having enough time on TV to really showcase all the talent you have. I think that that's the first thing that we see as a change that can kind of reverberate. We've already kind of seen that Raw ratings really, really went up this week because of the news. So I think that we kind of still see that. I think in the long run, this really does change the wrestling business because Triple H, before in his previous role, doing a head creative and talent relations for NXT, he had a global vision for NXT and the WWE. And I think that over time, he will go back to that vision. He will put a refocus on other countries. Unfortunately, that's going to mean draining their indie talent pool. And it's going to require more talent on the WWE roster again. Like I kind of said before, I don't necessarily put all of the cuts on Nick Khan. I think this kind of is a game changer because there are a lot of people that left WWE that were brought in and mentored heavily by Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Road Dogg and people like that who assumedly are now going to have a lot more creative control over the entire product. There's no more being demoted to the main roster. I think that we start to see a lot more of that. And when these contracts are up for those kind of people, really, really specifically focusing on like Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Keith Lee, Swerve, all these people have come out and had really nice glowing things to say about Triple H, even when they didn't have nice glowing things to say about the company overall and how they were treated on the main roster. These people have a real soft spot for how they were treated in NXT. And that's the people that are going for them again and offering them more money. There's less incentive for them to be anywhere else. And Triple H, do they probably keep the NIL and develop their own new talent? Yes. Yes, I do think that because Triple H has a real soft spot himself for his developmental brand and how he developed people before they ever saw TV, even if it was NXT on the network. I think he still does that. I think we still do see football players and people like that. Triple H and Stephanie really did not only coin the term the women's revolution, but they really put a definition behind it, specifically Triple H and NXT. Maybe we see people like Sasha Banks not leave the company now. In the immediate, maybe we see a return of Sasha to WWE, because it seems like the two people that she would have the biggest problem with are now completely gone from the company. So what's necessarily keeping her if they can work something out? Naomi is in that as well. We've already seen Cody come back. I think that we'll see a lot of people that we hadn't really seen, that we kind of assumed would be on their way out and into another company like AEW or Impact, or even going over to New Japan. Johnny Gargano is kind of in that little pool of unknowns that haven't, we know of, signed a contract. Maybe we see them go back to WWE. And that's, to me, that's a real game changer for the business overall, because if it's not, you either want all the money, or you want some money and creative control, or you want a little bit of both. Maybe now there's two options that give you a little bit of both. And maybe we have wrestlers that want to work some small indie dates like they did when AEW started. It seems like that's happening less and less. Maybe Triple H works that out. Maybe he completely loots the indie scene again, and we don't really have a whole lot of indie guys to work. I think that depending on the way he goes, he could have a really big impact on AEW's roster, on Impact's roster, absolutely, on New Japan's roster, and on all the little indie scenes around the world. It's not going to be immediate. This is not something we're going to see like 5 new people signed like every single week for the next 6 months. This is going to be a very, very gradual change, but I do think that it's going to change.
Yeah, I agree with pretty well everything that CJ just said. Um, you know,
I just
we,
want to verify when you said like the two people that are no longer there. Obviously, Vinnie Mac, and you mean John Laurinaitis?
Yes.
Okay, just want to verify.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Want to interrupt your convo?
but yeah, I agree with everything she just said. There's so many people that, yes, they've gone to AEW, and yes, they didn't like their main roster run, or yes, Vince had no vision for them. But she mentioned, all the Undisputed Era loved Triple H and Shawn Michaels. They adored their time on NXT, and yeah, you have your FTR that hated them and said they didn't have a vision, or they were assholes, or whatever. But there's 3 top AEW stars right there that had glowing things to say about their time in developmental with those people. And when their contract comes up, they may go, hey, again, more inconvenient truth for a lot of people, who live in this ride or die AEW world. WWE is the big time. And WWE is still what a lot of people fantasize and dream about when they want to be wrestlers, and still do fantasize and dream about that. We may go like, oh, WrestleMania sucked. Oh, the belts in WWE don't mean shit anymore. But when you're a wrestler, you still dream of WrestleMania and your WrestleMania moment, and being a part of the same spectacle that Hogan and Macho Man and Brett and Shawn and Austin and Rock and Cena and Roman have all been a part of. So I think, when these contracts come up, MGF, threw around bidding war. It's going to be a bidding war, and it's going to be more cutthroat and ruthless than it was before. Because AEW is going to have to pay up, and they're going to have to be smart in the short term to have the money to pay up. Because Adam Cole and all those love Triple H and Shawn and Road Dogg. And they love their time in NXT. And if they can negotiate, and if they know they're going to be treated as well as they were in developmental, only on Raw or SmackDown, they'll go. if they know they're going to be used the way they were in NXT, but instead of being for the NXT belts, it'll be for the World Championship or the Universal Championship, they're going to go. Same thing with Keith Lee. Don't the other people, like guys, she mentioned Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano has gone on record. Everybody's all like, "Oh, I hope he goes to AEW. I hope he goes to New Japan. I hope he does this, that, and the other." Johnny Gargano's publicly stated his dreams are still WrestleMania and to be the Intercontinental Champion, and he likes Triple H, and he appreciated how Triple H treated him. So, yeah, and if he can kind of be promised something like that, he's gonna go. Circumstances right. Triple H, also knows, for all intents and purposes, how to give and take with talent. CJ mentioned, hey, if they want to work indie dates, Triple H should probably let them, as long as it's not like something that's gonna like immediately be a threat or hurt the brand. He may let some of those guys go do independent dates. He's not going to let the independent wrestlers look better than the WWE guys. But, if I'm just spitballing a local name, but like if somebody like Mike Outlaw, I'm just using him as an example, were to get signed with WWE and go like, hey, I'd like to go and wrestle at St. Louis Anarchy and Glory Pro Wrestling on this weekend, Triple H might go, cool. As long as you don't make the brand look bad, and as long as you look the best, I could see Triple H doing that.
I do want to add, like, just a little, like, it's not unheard of. Triple H has done this in the past. They let Eddie finish out his run that he had already worked out on the Indies. When he came back, he got to work ROH.
Yeah,
even.
He sure enough showed up in Ring of Honor with the Intercontinental title. Daniel Bryan showed up in Evolve with the U.S. title.
Triple H was and Daniel Bryan has been on record of saying that he almost didn't come to AEW. He almost stayed. Triple H was working very, very hard to secure a contract where Daniel Bryan could work in New Japan, which was his number one ask, and basically his only really big ask. And Triple H was working on that when the deal fell through. Is that probably a possibility now that they seem to have a contract with AEW or a working relationship? Maybe not. But it's not an unfounded thing to wonder if Triple H can't make that work, because he has in the past with not just those guys. Matt Hardy did the same. And they've all been on record of saying, like, yeah, Triple H was the guy that made this happen. He's the one that worked through this and made this a possibility and a reality. So he's had the history of wanting to do it, making it happen, and having those connections to make it a possibility. So it's not, I don't want to hear like that's unrealistic. You guys are just pulling shit out of your ass. Like there is a documented history of this.
Whether or not it comes to fruition has yet to be seen, but like it's not, we don't know. Again, this is the most change the wrestling business has seen in 40 years. But kind of going back to all of that, MJF was, with all this thing, talking about a bidding war, and like all of us in the AEW fan base are going like, oh, well, he's fucked if he goes WWE. They're going to misuse him. But can they still misuse all these people we just said? Like, is that still a possibility? Yeah, like, I'm also not naive to that fact, but MJF, WWE may look a little sexier to MJF right now, because Triple H may let MJF be MJF. We kind of speculated way back when Cody got his release that maybe he'll be back to AEW at some point and when things change. Cody's probably going to be a booker for WWE once his in-ring career. Cody's probably never going back to AEW now, because Triple H
would he have a reason to?
Exactly. If he can book where he's got it, where his dad's legacy is, and be a top guy and get to be creative once his in-ring career's done, Oh, buddy. No reason for him to go back to AEW for any for at all. Um, you know, the independents, one of the big, even when with Triple H putting on the NXT that quote unquote we in the internet all loved, there was still a vocal part of that crowd going, they're destroying the fucking indies, like he's rating NXT, he's rating the UK for NXT UK. He's rating all these, promotions with all these different people, and now they're losing guys left and right. Like, that's gonna happen again. Be fucking prepared. Like, again, anything is possible, and there may be no change, but just be ready for, oh shit, all these guys from in PWG and Impact and GCW and all these brands that are getting a lot of buzz right now. They could be raped, pillaged, and plundered with talent raids before all is said and done. All the AEW talent, like I know, like we cited the Triple H guys, the Undisputed Era, Keith Lee, Swerve, all those guys. Even people you might not expect might kind of have their ears perk up a little bit. There might be one or two that are like, I'll be in AEW forever. People like Punk and the Bucks and Kenny and maybe Moxley, might be kind of stuck there, but
Rumor that he would be open to returning, but again, that's only a rumor.
The other thing I want to talk about is, especially as it relates to AEW, but this is the wrestling business as a whole, but AEW specifically. Stephanie McMahon, a woman, is running this company. If you want to try and sell a female wrestler on going to WWE, and like if they're worried, Stephanie could probably put their mind at ease a lot more than Vince or John Laurinaitis could. AEW's women's division has always been the weakest portion of the, like, not saying the talent's bad or the matches are bad, but how that division is treated in WWE, or in AEW rather, has always been a weak spot of that division. Don't be surprised when AEW women are not, finally get fed up, and if nothing changes, they're going to go, my contract's up. Stephanie McMahon, a woman, is talking to me about going to WWE. Fuck yeah. You could very well see people like Chris Statlander, Thunder Rosa, hell, even Jade, Britt Baker, all of them jumped to WWE for that. All of them jumped to WWE. If Adam Cole goes back and Britt can negotiate a deal like she has in AEW where she can wrestle and still be a dentist, and they bend on that, or they acquiesce to that, Britt will go. Don't. I'm not saying throw up the white flag or that AEW is going out of business or trying to be dramatic, but I'm also saying be prepared. Be prepared, because this things can change. And the last point I really want to make, as far as like the wrestling business as a whole, I don't know how, Vince was a very petty, spiteful, vengeful person. And I don't know how Stephanie and Triple H really are. I mean, there's stories about Stephanie kind of being like that a little bit. And maybe and Triple H too, with his association with the Clique back in the 90s, and stories he had when he was with other talent. It's there. Keep in mind, Triple H lost. He lost once when he had the small brand. He had handcuffs, on him. He didn't have as many resources. He didn't have as much marketing. He didn't have as much behind him when he, quote unquote, lost the Wednesday Night War with his vision. Triple H has the keys to the kingdom now. Triple H can carry out his vision with a lot more resources and a lot more behind it, Triple H might be coming for blood. And he might go, okay, you got me. You got me. Now I'm going to get you. And it may not happen overnight. It may not happen in 5 years, 10 years, whatever.
Long-term storytelling.
Not long-term storytelling, just long-term marketing and business to go, okay, you got me. Before I put you under, I'm going to let you go down to nothing. I'm going to let you see what it's like to be shit with nothing.
I'm going to quote God on this, and it's wrestling personalities are always best when they're yourself, just turned up a little bit. So it's all about the game and how you play it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about control and if you can take it.
Yeah. And he's
if
taking
you don't
control.
think that Triple H, Paul Levesque, is a little bit of Triple H the game and doesn't want the control and doesn't want to be the best, then you don't know wrestlers. I don't know him personally, but I guarantee you that loss, whether he wanted it to be a war or not, whether he acknowledged it was a war or not in his own head, it damn well is now. You put shit on his face. If he doesn't win it,
He was
he's gonna make
humiliated and ousted by his father-in-law because he lost. Well,
and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, though, there may be one tiny group that might get in his way, whether they view his vision or not, the board of directors.
That could happen. But if they're turning profits,
So,
who knows? Could.
Yeah, but
The
if they're
board
turning profit, they're really not going to give two shits about the vision then. If they say, well,
if they're
when
but
Vinny was
here's
in charge, we were having profits. Now our profits are dwindling since you're in charge.
Well, if okay, if that happens, then that's fine. But if they're still making the profits, and then he can go, "Hey, board of directors, you want to destroy our competition?" They're gonna go, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah."
Do you know actually how much of the in-ring product and all of that, even the mention of AEW is brought up to the board of directors and in conference calling and stuff with the shareholders?
Ooh, I want to hear this.
0. AEW is not brought up. It's not a factor in these meetings.
So if Triple H can just carry out his vision and in the process destroy your competition, fuck yeah.
The wrestlers themselves are just little pictures in the packets. Like this to the board and to the shareholders is an entertainment company. It's just like any other movie studio. It's just like anything else. They could give a shit what the premise of Jaws was. How much money did it make at the box office? How much money did it cost us to get it to that point? They could give a fuck how much it costs if it makes money at the box office. They could give a shit how much expense is on these books as long as there's a profit margin in it for them. That's the cold hard facts about the real business world. And I listen to these conference calls every quarter. If not all of it in its entirety, I listen to all the snippets and long form discussions on it, and I read the SEC filings. I check all these things. I watch this from a business perspective and from a wrestling fan perspective. The creative side of it has no bearing on this company from a financial standpoint, as long as they're making money. And they stand, unless their business partners decide they don't want to be in business with them. And I seriously doubt now that this has come that that's going to be a thing. As long as he doesn't completely creatively shit the bed, and I don't think he's going to, I don't think that's going to be a factor in these discussions.
Nope.
He can go for blood as long as he doesn't just hemorrhage money everywhere without seeing a positive result. And I mean, they have static revenues. They have guaranteed money coming in from USA NBC with the Raw show every Monday, that's guaranteed funds, and the Peacock deal is guaranteed funds with potential for more, because you have your next day streaming rights deals coming up at the end of the year, and then you have a Fox deal as well as the Saudi Arabia deal. So you have like 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 streams of massive income. And that's not to say like the live gate that what Tony Khan what Tony Khan is making such a big deal of is his $1 million gates. Like that's the big talking point for AEW. WWE does that all the time. That's a cliff note on their financials. Like they make money hand over fist with these television deals. And as long as they don't piss those people off and become unattractive because of negative publicity in the Wall Street Journal and other things that matter in the whole grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
they're going to keep making money, and it's
So
going to keep
if they
going
keep
up.
making money, and WWE, and Triple H is able to make WWE in a place that people want to work at again and can feel creatively fulfilled and financially and all these different things. If he can bring, if Stephanie can coax Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, Jade Cargill, Athena back, and then can also bring back people that know they like Triple H, like Keith Lee, um, Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, can find little perks for people like Bryan Danielson. Um, make all those people happy, give them something they like to do, pay them well, but assure MJF that he will be used well and used the way he wants to be. If he can do that and they don't hemorrhage money and get bad publicity, and make AEW and make WWE seem like a better place to be than AEW. That's not out of the realm. I know that in the AEW fan bubble that is absurd that anybody would want to leave. The land of freedom and greatness and specialness that brought CM Punk back to wrestling, known as AEW. But there's a different perspective outside of the bubble and when you're there, and when you're being welcomed in a good way to, yes, I hate to say it, the biggest promotion ever. Why wouldn't you? If Adam Cole gets a chance to main event WrestleMania, why is he not going to go? We can all make up some sort of like morality play of, well, AEW's the nice people, but we don't know.
Here's kind of the thing about it too that I see. Like, can Triple H go out and sign like everybody to millions upon millions of dollars every year? No, he can't without getting some pushback from the high ups and the board. Yes, that's true. He cannot just throw money at everyone to make them all happy. But the thing, and the timing is odd and kind of kismet for this. We've been hearing a lot of people say that the communication in AEW with people whose contracts are expiring or aren't being used as top guys in the promotion, the communication is a little lacking. And I can see that, and I'll give justify, like there's 2 people that we know of that are contactable for AEW, with ultimately being Tony Khan. Tony Khan is the CEO. He is the head of the company. He is the owner of the company. He is the board of directors. He is the shareholders. He is the head of creative. He is the head of marketing. He is the buck stops here guy. And that's cool because nobody else can come over him. If Tony says you're going to get pushed like this, you're going to get pushed like that. If Tony says you're going to get a deal like this, you're going to get a deal like this. The bad part of that is when you're not CM Punk and you're not Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks, maybe with all those responsibilities, he just doesn't have time to respond to everyone in that company with every concern. And it's justifiable because you're only one dude and you've got more than one company, not just all your hats that you wear in AEW. But in WWE, you could be a Triple H guy, or you could be a Stephanie guy or girl, and you could be a
Paul Heyman
Bruce.
guy.
You could be a Paul Heyman guy. You could be a Bruce Pritchard guy. You could be a Kevin Dunn guy. You could have been Vince's guy and still like sneak in the radar because they're not going to turn you down right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different people that you
And I think that,
tap in with
and
that
I
can
think,
get you.
and I think that also kind of brings up the point, like, okay, I'm not. Again, I'm not trying to shit on AEW. I hope both companies are great and I can enjoy all the great wrestling forever. But this might be where Tony Khan needs to think about, hey, maybe he needs to delegate. This might be where Tony Khan needs to think about, okay, you're doing well and you're sustaining, and your TNT likes you, and you're doing well on your stream, your pay-per-view buys, and you've got good relationships with other promotions and all these different things. This might be where Tony Khan might really have to, I keep saying it, he might have to look outside of his bubble. He might have to look at, there's more. You've had your good run being the wrestling show, and you can still be the wrestling show compared to the sports entertainment show. But you might need to take a long, hard look at, like, okay, can this honestly sustain? What are we going to have to do to keep this going? What are our weaknesses? We can't just, it's a stereotype, and maybe he doesn't do this, but he really gives off this vibe when you hear him talk and when see him, post social media. He's going to have to quit. He's going to have to open himself up to criticism more, which he does not take well. And he's going to have to probably look outside of his bubble and go like, okay, the numbers went down. Don't panic, but we need to look at this. Oh, this went down. Don't panic, let's look at this. Oh, these people are unhappy. Let's look at this. And not just
But unhappy. I'm gonna get to my rant soon.
And
keep going.
And not just go, woo! Dave Meltzer gave this 6 stars. Woo! Let's fucking go. Twitter liked it. Woo! He can't do that anymore. You can't, like, I'm not trying to be like an E-drone saying, like, all the artists, the dumb marks that look at their fucking internet and everything. Like, you can keep that identity and keep that goodwill and still be like, okay, look, we're going to have to devote more TV time to making sure our talent get used and get developed and people know who they are and we can have a plan rather than just, God damn it, Lucha Bros and Young Bucks need a 2-segment match in 20 minutes because, God damn it, that's the money. That is the fucking stars we need, and the Twitter's gonna be a buzz. I know I'm picking on the Young Bucks.
Vignettes and promos could also help. That's another discussion for another day.
Yeah, I'm not trying to pick on the Young Bucks again, but, like, you can't just go like, well, these people in this part of the audience thought that was cool, and a guy with a newsletter thought it was 6.5 stars, so fuck yeah, let's keep going. Like, you're gonna have to look.
Some of the shareholders would probably literally be asking, who gives a shit?
Mm-hmm.
Literally, if he was bragging that to me and I was a shareholder of AEW, I will literally just go ahead and say, who gives a shit? Yeah. I could care less if a rating was 6 stars or whatever. So, I just want to know, is my product good? So, also, and with speaking about pissing off people, and I was gonna mention this because Tony's not just wanting one promotion; he's not running 2. And as of this recording, we just had Death Before Dishonor, and you found a way to piss off one of Ring of Honor's most loyalist
We'll talk.
superstars. And
We'll
I
talk about
literally
that another day. But yeah,
on another. Okay, I'll save that for Thursday or for our next Just Us Marks.
yeah, we'll talk more about that. But
I'll put
like,
that on it. But
like
yeah, just
you're gonna have to like. I mean,
Tony needs
it's the
some better
it's
relations with talent.
it's the business world, and you're not
Like,
gonna make everybody happy all the time. You're not. That's business. When one person's up, somebody else is down, and eventually somebody's gonna be like, "Well, fuck that. I should be up." And we as a fan base go, "Oh well, it was just Big Swole, or it was just Joey Janela, or it was just Jonathan Gresham, or it was just Cody Rhodes." Like, oh, well, Big Swole wasn't that good, and Joey Janela is a deathmatch wrestler, and Jonathan Gresham has no charisma, and Cody's, the C plus wrestler wonder. And we can say that, but when, you know, you're going to have to really tighten up on that. Good and bad, you're going to have to tighten up because now, oh, hey, he pissed off. I'm just saying this, just pulling this name out. He pissed off and disrespected in some way where he thought he wasn't being disrespectful, but he was. Wheeler Yuta. Well, Vince or Triple H may like Wheeler Yuta. And if Wheeler leaves, hey, these other people, hey, come over here too. MJF may leave. I mean, go like, oh, he was a spoiled rich kid that wanted more than what he was worth, but he might leave. And, the business world is not nicey nice.
I'll point out the guy that I know for a fact Triple H had his eye heavily on, and they pulled really, really hard at the strings to get him to come to WWE. Adam Page.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He was very, very close to being a WWE guy, and Triple H promised him a lot. And after that title run, and after this whole run with the Dark Order and everything, if he's not happy at the end of his contract,
He'll explore.
I guarantee you that there are people that are
and that's something else. You're not going to be able to just go like, oh well, he had some good matches in his title run, so he should have been honored playing behind CM Punk, the real star. Like, okay, we can say that in our bubble, but and I'm not saying Hangman may be loyal to AEW like Sting was to WCW. We don't know. Like, I'm not putting words in any talent's mouths, but for all intents and purposes, like, okay, yeah, I had my matches that were, got some praise from the fans, but I was supposed to be the guy, and you didn't treat me like the guy. Hey, you know who got pissed off when another company, was supposed to make somebody the guy and didn't treat him like the guy? CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
So, it may not be overnight. It may not be within the next 10 years, but if you think AEW has zero to worry about, I got some swampland in Florida to sell to you. And that's just what it is. Not yes, sometimes Tony Khan shows he cannot play nice sometimes, but you might have to delegate. You might have to think about how you talk to people. You might have to think about how you promise things. You may have to change your infrastructure just a little bit. And if you're unable to do that, and that eventually leads to the detriment of your company, well, WWE put a lot more powerful promotions 6 feet deep. But any quick, and I mean quick final thoughts anybody wants to add?
Yeah, please get new musicians. Def Rebel are horrible at making entrance themes. I'm sorry.
Oh, Poppy will be making all entrance themes now.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know that. That's just.
But no, seriously, all the entrance themes sound like the generic music that you get when you're trying to create a superstar. I'm just saying. I literally can't believe I'm saying this. I miss CFOS. That's saying something. I didn't like some of their stuff, but some of them are actual bangers.
Yeah. Um,
Like it's
see,
not normal to change a theme music every like 6 months.
CJ, anything real quick you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
And I don't really have anything I want to add. I want to thank everybody for listening to this one. Like I said, this has gone about an hour and a half, so this is why we didn't do it on the stream, folks. This needed a standalone story, and I know there's going
Would
to be
have been
people.
a later show.
There's going to be people saying, "Why would you talk about Vince this way?" It's like, well, again, I know he's a douchebag. I know he's a dick, but he was the biggest promoter this business has ever seen. And if he's retiring, it's the biggest story that this business has ever seen. So I want to thank each and every one of you for listening to this. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. Let us know your thoughts about everything in the comment section below, or you can hit me up on social media, facebook.com/athleticgeek89, Twitter athletic_geek89, Instagram athleticgeek89. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.